Wokeism is something that is awful about comics, but there's a lot more to the bad business practices of Marvel and DC that have gone back decades. These are companies that just screw creators, and it's because they have these properties. They know that they have kind of a monopoly or duopoly on the market, and they know that you need that clout to be in the industry to have to work on their properties, so they just cycle through this thing. Now, Image Comics was started back in the 90s because this was a thing back then too. It's been all the way for decades. And a bunch of artists realized, you know what, we're named superstars. We can make money on our own without Marvel and DC Comics. It was the last time something like that really could happen in the comic industry. There's a lot of independent stuff today, of course, but it's nowhere near what was done back then. Everything kind of fell apart in the late 90s because of other bad business practices, which we'll save for maybe another video. But it remains the same. DC and Marvel are the full clout of the industry where you kind of work for them or else. And so they do things that are bizarre and, of course, sometimes against their best interests just to avoid, like, clipping fees and paying artists. It's freaking weird. Now, this is something that just came out over the weekend. It was very interesting for me to read, so I'm going to impart this upon you because it just shows how shady the mainstream comic industry is. These are evil corporations. They just hate you. They hate artists. They are just churning out content in order to just clip a return and, of course, keep the property licenses going for the movies. They do not care about comics whatsoever. It's been clear about that over the last several years, especially as we've reported the news of what they've been doing to these characters. It's all bad fan fiction at this point. They don't create anything new. And anybody who does create anything new just gets screwed. And that's why you don't see big creators really doing much anymore. Even when they come in, even when a Jonathan Hickman comes back, like somebody that actually has a following that people like, you know, they kind of phone it in to some degree. They don't create new things. They only stay on the old. And the reason for that is, of course, the fact that Marvel and DC are going to do everything they can to not pay them for their work. So why wouldn't they go create something else and, like, try to get a Netflix deal themselves? That's where we're at these days. And it's for good reason. So this is what came out. Tom Brevoort, who is the editor of the X-Men line, and of course we've seen that he's embattled, has said some weird comments, kind of let the mask slip a little bit about how evil Marvel and DC are. We're going to get into the news in just a moment. My name's John Delarose. I'm a #1 best-selling author and award-winning comic creator, and of course, I have my books up at delarose.com, and these are my web store. Very easy. I create all this stuff myself, and it's all creator-owned, and you can know that none of this is going to an evil corporation. These are my novels. My comics are right here. If you're interested, I recommend starting with Overmind. Would be a great spot to go, as we're going to be working on the second volume coming out later this summer. Thanks so much for the support. We've been selling a ton of books the last couple weeks. You guys have been amazing, and I appreciate you for being here. So here's the news of the day. Tom Brevoort confirms Marvel Comics intentionally screwed over Rob Liefeld not to pay royalties. Now, Rob Liefeld's a bit of a hothead firebrand. I now have personal experience with this, which is a weird thing. I made a video about that. You can go watch it. But he definitely did the work with Cable and Deadpool, and he made X-Force into something that was big and actually the biggest seller really Marvel's ever had. And then he got screwed for the process. So Tom Brevoort revealed this. This was an industry rumor that this happened for years. But what he said when he got into this was, in a misguided and unsuccessful attempt to avoid paying creator incentives to Rob Liefeld. They literally just didn't want to have him clip a fee. With whom he'd had some bitter encounter, Bill Jamas, who was the editor at the time, had decided to relaunch and rebrand the 3 ongoing series that Rob had creator participation: Cable, X-Force, and Deadpool. So Cable became Soldier X, X-Force became Ecstatics, and Deadpool became Agent X. All 3 of them suffered in failing sales and were ultimately discontinued. Very weird move. You have 3 giant brands that are going to clip you money forever because everybody loves Cable, X-Force, and Deadpool. And so they changed the names of them and actually changed the premises quite a bit in order to just avoid paying Rob Liefeld some royalties. Wow, what a brand mistake. And they screwed over the brands of the X-Men for years for that. I mean, X-Men really fell off a cliff when they were doing this type of thing, and it's never really recovered since then. Doesn't help that they've had some bad writers, of course, on the process, but this branding move was a big fail for Marvel Comics, and it's all just because they don't want to pay their creators. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And so once these creators get big, they get some followings, they try to usher them out every single time and try to just churn new people back in. That's part of the scam of the industry, and until young artists figure it out and decide to go and do something independent for themselves, it's going to just be a vicious cycle over and over again of these people getting screwed. Oh, it's really sad to watch, but of course, it is exactly what you expect from Disney Marvel. Now, Rob Liefeld made some comments about this as well and kind of mocked it. He said that they hadn't paid him at all in years. And he said, I absolutely denied it at the time. It seemed inconceivable given the low sales those titles were experiencing. Months later, I was informed of a firsthand experience of them trying to figure out a way to do it by someone who was in the very room it was, and that was Bill Jamos at the time. Very interesting. And of course, these are par for the course. Marvel and DC have been bad forever. Of course, the creators of Superman got screwed, had to sue. Jack Kirby got screwed, had to sue. Steve Ditko's estate got screwed, had to sue. It goes all the way down the line, but you need to be a big enough name to even get there. Otherwise, like if you're a smaller artist, you're just really out of luck, and you know how that goes. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.